Dude, are you drunk?
Maybe.
Welcome to the Booz and Broz podcast, where hosts Matt Lytle and Chris Califf discuss everything paranormal, cryptic, horror, true crime, and of course, booze. So grab your favorite beverage and come have a drink with the Booz and Broz.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Booz and Bros podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Matt Lytle, with my co-host,
Chris Califf?
that is Chris Califf, yes. You're looking pretty good tonight, bro. I've never seen that
Thank you,
hat
brother.
before.
Oh, this is the one that Rachel got me a long time ago. This is my Oakley hat that I only bring it on special occasions because it's one of my favorite hats. So,
That's why I've never seen it, because I've never been a part of a special occasion with you.
what do you think? Ghost Loop is a special occasion? Come on now.
I
Anyway.
think Ghost Loop is a very, very special occasion, which brings me to what we will be talking about tonight, which is what exactly are ghosts? As you guys don't know yet, this isn't just a podcast where we talk about ghosts and paranormal things, supernatural things, but we also drink during this podcast. What we like to do is make a cocktail or drink a beer that has to do with what we're talking about. So tonight, we, as in Chris and I, made a drink called the Ghosted Cocktail. Mine's in here, ready to rock. Yours is that is yours. So for you
I'm
guys
nervous,
listening,
man.
I'm shaking mine up. What's that?
I'm nervous. Nervous about this one.
Okay. So I'm going to pour this into my glass like a professional bartender that I used to be. This is going to be bad. Watch out.
Bring it up,
Oh, that's
bring it
not
up,
too
bring it
bad.
up. I got to be able to see that.
There it
Did
is.
you just put milk in there? Like,
It looks just like milk, but no, there's a lot of vodka in here.
let's be real,
oh
like
my
the
gosh, it
texture,
smells.
like,
So what is in this before we give it a shot?
At this point, give me 1 second so I can make sure that no matter what, I get the accurate recipe for something like this. So, what we're looking at is 4 ounces of coconut rum or vodka. I use vodka. Matt, I'm pretty sure you did the same.
I did.
3 ounces white creme de cacao. 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 Anyway. 2
Oh my gosh.
teaspoons of simple vanilla syrup. 3 ounces of heavy cream, or half and half. And for those lactose out there, you can definitely use coconut milk for a non-dairy version.
So I have coconut milk.
I have half and half.
Okay. I have
heavy cream,
vodka.
sorry. I have
You had-
vodka.
Okay. And then, yeah, so the other ingredients are the same. So basically, we have the same cocktail.
Cacao.
We have the Ghosted Cocktail, and everyone listening, we are trying it. Everybody watching, you can obviously see we're trying it. Cheers, brother.
Cheers, brother.
Oh. That.
Oh, man.
Okay, so
Oh,
when I first
how white-
tried it. Oh, what?
How white girls get wasted on stuff like this, I don't understand. I don't get it.
My first inclination was to say it's disgusting, but then the aftertaste is actually pretty good. That coconut slash like hint of white cream de cacao and vodka. It's actually pretty good.
I have to give you credit. You give this a lot more of a thumbs up than I do, my friend. To me, it tastes like sweet milk that won't get me all kinds of drunk. So
It will though. That's the thing. It does taste like sweet milk, but after this, we're probably going to be a little tipsy, and that's the point of this podcast.
well, the point of this podcast is simple, my brother, is to sip on these fine pre-decided beverages as we discuss random topics that occur all the time. I don't know how I feel about this drink. Like, I want to drink more, but at the same time, my stomach and my brain are telling me this will kill you. So
I'm going to finish this because that is what we do here at the Booz and Bros podcast. We don't not finish our drink no matter what, right?
we don't not.
Okay.
All right, so let me ask you a question as we're sitting here having these beverages, which are, like I said, I'm still on the jury's out.
Yeah, the ghosted
What is it?
cocktail.
Yeah, the ghost and cocktail, I mean, brings up that point that what are we doing this for? What's a ghost? You know, I mean, this first kind of run for us is kind of just talking about that. So let's start with you, man. What do you think, just at base level, what is a ghost?
Well, I think that question in general is way more broad than just, oh, it's this. A ghost can be many things. It could be, a relative. It can be a dark entity. It could be a soldier on a battlefield. It could be anyone. What it's made up of can be energy that we have in our body right now. When we die, we leave this body. But in my opinion, our spirit and our energy, what's the science behind energy, Caleb?
Well, once created, cannot be destroyed. So
that's what I think. I don't think our energy can be destroyed. I think it moves on. Having said moving on, I do believe that a lot of our human souls, human energy does stay on this earth as a ghost.
But that poses a question. Why? What would make, I mean, for me, it's more like, what if what we're dealing with and the phenomenon we're dealing with in every day is something that's cross-dimensional, right? So as these dimensional walls shift or touch, you're able to see echoes into a different dimension, and you think they're a ghost because our brains can't comprehend that what we're seeing is actually something from a different time or place, right? To me, a ghost embodies more of an echo of something, whether it be energy, which is all kinds of possible, or it be something from some different plane. Both, I think, are very good explanations. I mean, granted, nothing's for sure because nobody comes back from being dead. But, I mean, you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah. So we basically have a very similar idea of what I guess a ghost is made up of. We both believe. B, we both think they are some type of energy that's here. Why are they here is a big question for a lot of people who are interested in the paranormal field and paranormal investigating, ghost hunting like ourselves. I think that it's such I don't want to say touchy subject, but ghosts, spirits have been talked about not since the 1800s or 1700s. Ghosts have been talked about since 100 AD. The very first ghost story was from a Roman author who walked down in his basement in Athens, Greece, I believe. He walked down in his basement and saw an old bearded man with chains around his ankles. And he said the most terrifying look in this old man's face just flowed through that basement, and he had to run, and he moved his house. He was a very wealthy author back in 100 AD. I don't know what wealthy was back then, but that is the first known ghost story.
$5. That was wealthy.
$5, dude. $5 probably was, I would say, less than that. I mean, I think if you had $2, you could probably get some wheels, probably get a horse or whatever the hell they did in 100 AD.
Well, you realize horses don't have wheels, right? Just throwing that out there. I wanted to point that out real quick.
Wheels, it was an expression. It wasn't literal. 856 AD, there was a man, I do not know his name, but he lived on a giant farm in Germany, and he, I guess, had a poltergeist in his barn. So he stayed away from his barn, even though he had to farm. So I don't know how he worked that out in 856 AD, but yeah, that was apparently the first sign of a poltergeist.
Can you imagine a dude whose living is based in essentially farming at that point, right? Your job, what you do, your basis of life is built around this. And then there's some shady ghost in your barn, shaking stuff and rattling doors and just kind of being an all-around dick.
I heard that it threw...
And you can't make no money.
Right. I heard that it threw his tools around, all of his tools, whatever the hell they had back then, threw them around the barn.
I'd be pissed. If I was that farmer, I can honestly say I would be all kinds of pissed because my livelihood is now depending on this ghost being nice to me. No, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Not cool.
Poltergeists, no, they don't know nice. I really am enjoying this drink, by the way. Can we take a pause into our next segue into what ghosts are? This drink is actually kind of growing on me.
Well, I'm glad it's doing that for one of us.
As I said that. Oh.
Yeah. Let's be real. Tito's is calling my name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about why we think ghosts are among us.
Okay.
What are some of the main type? Okay, you're a ghost hunter, again, 15 plus years. You've experienced everything. What are some of the main haunts that you have came in contact with?
Well, residual being, I mean, probably the biggest one, and those being the broken record haunts. The idea that energy can be absorbed into the walls from a traumatic experience and then played back at a time or date, whatever have you. And I think that you see more of that because that's more a fluctuation of energy, just that residual broken record that's just replaying the event back. The ones that have rattled me the most, to be 100% honest, would be the intelligent haunts. When you're actually when communicating with something that's not there, that you're reaching across the veil and having a conversation and getting real-time answers, and they're relevant. It becomes really, really, really interesting as far as being that ghost hunter, to know that, okay, at this point, am I actually discussing this with somebody? Are we having a conversation? How do they know these things that the thin air couldn't just come up with, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to agree. I mean, there's so many residual type hauntings that are in apartment buildings that, random people live in. There's residual hauntings on, the street that you live on. It's everywhere. And there's a theory called the stone tape theory. I know you've heard of it. And it kind of relates to what you're talking about is those streets and those walls of that building can suck in that energy, and it's there and it repeats itself. And the residual type hauntings, the spirits that are there that are trapped there don't know that they're trapped. And that is different from, yes, an intelligent haunting where that ghost can smack you, can yell at you, can touch your butt, whatever the hell it wants to do. And, a lot of intelligent hauntings are, some loved ones who want to stay back to watch over their family, or someone who died tragically, knowing that they died, and they want to stay on Earth because they're like, I died at, 28 years old from a car crash. I wasn't done on Earth. I want to stay here on Earth. And I can't get past the fact that I died at this age. I wanted to live till I was 80. Now, like, I can't. So they can't go to the next spot where they're supposed to go, but they do know that they're dead. They just can't go to that next spot. So that is the intelligent hauntings that I run into a lot. And of course, you and me have investigated together for a few years now, and we've ran into that a lot as well. What other different types of hauntings can there be? Let's talk about some of the, a lot of these teenagers and even new paranormal investigators, they like to go to these abandoned places, these asylums, right, these jails. Can you talk a little bit about, what kind of hauntings might be there?
Well, at that point, you're going to deal with something more of a poltergeist, right? You're going to deal with a mischievous, a not nice type of ghost. You're not at the point of negativity yet where it's going to rip your face off or, destroy you, but it's definitely going to start being kind of a dick. It's going to move stuff around. It's going to break stuff. It's going to shake things. His job at that point is just to be less than stellar, right? So in those places, when you're provoking and you're kind of just being all around asshole, the responses you get are going to vary. The energy you bring to the table, what you bring to that specific place, is what you're going to get in return. It could just be an intelligent haunting, but you can go in there and be disrespectful and rude and whatnot and charge it up to the point where it becomes angry and upset, and that poltergeist haunt takes place. So I think that that's what you're going to run into the most, especially those who don't understand what they're doing. Ghost hunting, as fun as it sounds right out the gate, takes a lot of work to get a real good hang of what you're doing. So,
yeah, that's very true. And the types of hauntings that are in these places as well are, a jail. These men are there because they spent most of their life in there when they could have been free. So they can't move on to wherever they're going, which could, in my opinion, be hell. So they're going to stay there where they were their whole life. And if there's going to be, a group of 5 teenagers come in and have some ghost hunting equipment and they're sitting there provoking, talking shit to them, I would rattle some cages, literally. I would scare the shit out of them so they leave. When it comes to like insane asylums, same thing. They don't quite know that they're dead. They don't quite know how they lived. So they're stuck in that area that they know, they're comfortable there. And so when these teenagers come in or ghost hunters come in and stir things up a bit, they act out. Like you said, they throw things around and they'll make noises. And I mean, you and me we've investigated all these abandoned places. I've heard screams, old lady screams, screams for help inside the building. And it's weird. I'm getting chills talking about all this right now. But those to me are some of the scariest types of hauntings besides getting into the super dark stuff.
mean, that's the super dark stuff. The ones that get me are like I said, I go back to the intelligent ones, because when you can talk to, Joseph or whomever, and you hear their story, you hear how they live. They know they died. They know they can't cross over. And the idea of the torment and the emotional just duress you have to feel, knowing that you're trapped in this place that you can't move on from, that you're in this weird limbo, and you still have to feel everything that you felt. I can't imagine how horribly hellish that would feel, right? So it's one thing for, the kids to go in and start being kids and provoking and using the Ouija boards and all that crap. But imagine when you're dealing with an entity or a spirit that knows, that was ruthless or wasn't ruthless, that hasn't repented for what they've done. And now you're in there antagonizing this thing that's already in its own state of purgatory. Man, like, there's not really much more of a twisted setup than that.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a bag of freaking cats, It's a new saying I'm going to come up with. No, I didn't come up with it, but it's a new saying that I'm going to say. Bag of cats. Crazy as a bag of cats, right? I can't believe I'm still drinking this. Ugh.
That looks like it hurts at this point, man. Like, at this point, I'm worried about your safety. I mean,
it's almost halfway done, so I got to finish it. So I want to get more into you and I as experienced paranormal investigators. What are some of the investigations that have stuck out to you in your career, and how have they affected you in your life?
Well, I mean, like, being on the road, clearly, you vet cases and you get the worst of the worst cases. You don't go into places that are semi-active. You're going into places that literally have all the fixings to be, these really monumental pieces of your life. Being on the road for Ghost Loop, in that set of cases, clearly set out in a league all of their own. However, like, through the career, I mean, there's plenty. I mean, there's dozens that stick out for their own reasons. And we're looking at, talking about what a ghost is and what makes a ghost and that nature. A lot of, like, the asylums you've gone to, they have the fixings to really take a neutral energy, a small energy, and make it become something so much grander, right? I think that you can take any real thing. So you have the spirit of Tommy, little boy who's running through the halls of this place. And after a while, sitting in all that negative, sitting in all that bad, sitting in all that, ghost hunter crap and all this type of stuff, it feeds into that. Now, little Timmy is no longer just little Timmy. Little Timmy's angry Timmy. Sorry, Tommy. I'm a little buzzed at this point. I'm liking this podcast already. Anyway, so little Tommy is now angry Tommy. Okay, so a couple more years pass, a couple more years elapsed, and this entity of spirit's still stuck there. All this crap's come at him. Now, Tommy's not just angry, Tommy's pissed. Tommy's vengeful now. I think that could happen. I don't see why something like that wouldn't happen, because being saturated in all that negativity, wow, how you feeling? Because, like, I'm feeling pretty good at this point.
Oh, I feel great. Yeah, I'm actually kind of, like, overheated right now.
I can tell. You're flush. You're flush. Anyway.
No, I'm just kind of sunburnt.
But it's cases like those that scare me the most, that when you had something that started off so innocent, so sweet, and so small, and because of the situation, it became something so much worse. Those are the cases that really stick out to me. When you go to a place and you're getting yelled at and screamed at and being told, you're going to die, I'm going to rip you apart, just to find out it's a 12-year-old boy who's just scared. It's the spirit of a 12-year-old boy, Those are the ones that stick out the most for me. There's one here where we did, and it was a gypsy case where we thought she was this big, mean, awful, messed up thing. Come to find out, she just wanted help, And the EVPs, the electro voice phenomenon, the ghost voices, if you will, she just wanted help. But people had poked and prodded for so long that she become this vengeful thing that wasn't able to seek help anymore. It was just trying to get everything away. So that's one of the biggest ones that stick out to me.
Yeah, and I mean, you bring up such a good point, because what a lot of ghost hunters, including myself when I was younger, what we don't understand is these ghosts, a lot of them, as in all of them, used to be humans. You're talking to a human soul. You're not talking to, something that's never been on this earth, and you're not talking to a wall. So you can't just say anything you want to this entity. Like I used to do. I used to be, like, all about provoking no matter where I was and stuff, to try to get some, angry voice coming through the digital recorder or the spirit box, which, gives out white noise and they can speak through it. But, as I got older and I investigated with more experienced people, and I started, watching more of the shows, reading more books, and just becoming more more of an empath. I mean, you're talking to a human soul. I'll go back to our road trip in Ghost Loop, episode 6, Maryland, when you and I were in the backyard. We had multiple types of entities. We had, entities that did bad things. We had an entity who was wronged and hanged on a tree. We had a little boy entity. Because of our experiences and stuff, we had to find out who we were talking to, and we had to know how to talk to that spirit. When we first got to that location in the backyard, I started bawling my eyes out because I felt literally the helplessness of the man who was hanged. I felt him there. He was screaming help. I could feel, like, I have goosebumps. I could feel him screaming help. But who else was there? Do you remember, Chris? It was the people who owned that house, who kept slaves and treated them very, very, very poorly, worked them to death, and then sold them off after promising their freedom. They did very, very bad things to these slaves. So we had both of those types of energies there. And if I didn't know how to talk to each one, I wouldn't consider myself a good ghost hunter. I wouldn't want to ghost hunt. So I guess throwing advice to people listening to this who do ghost hunt or want to ghost hunt is know what entities you're talking to. Provoking is not the only way to go. Treat the spirits like they're humans, know their stories, and listen to them. You're not just there to talk. Listen to them and their stories. And I promise you, you're not only going to get great evidence, but you're also going to be able to help that spirit either move on or stay happy, stay that happy little boy, whatever it is. So,
well, you have to think about, like, when you look at what is a ghost, right? That's this whole idea that we're talking about now. What is a ghost? In order to be a good ghost hunter, you have to ask yourself that question. And you have to be able to know that there's more than one acceptable answer, right? It's not just, this is what a ghost is, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And we have too much of that. We have too much of that paranormal where people believe that they're the ones that are right. Screw everybody else's theories. Screw their hypothesis. You're wrong. This is how it is. No, these are questions that are open-ended. We don't have a conversation about what is a ghost and say, this is what a ghost is. Believe what we're saying. We're two dudes getting our sip on, getting a little bit buzzed, having a conversation about our opinions and what we believe and what we think ghosts are. We want to hear from everybody out there listening what your thoughts are. We want to hear what you think makes a ghost, both physically, emotionally, mentally, all of it. We want to know what brings that together. But in that same vein, you have to understand that not only can you not think that everything that you come across is right, you have to be able to have an open mind to be able to exercise and understand that everything coming at you has the smallest possibility of being right.
Very, very well said. And I agree with every single word you said. I mean, we have the same exact opinions when it comes to that. It's at the end of the day, like you said earlier in this podcast, no one has died and has been dead forever and came back. You are now on Tito's. Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the part of the segment where Chris just can't do another ghosted cocktail and needs to take a sip of Tito's. Tito's, okay, this is our first podcast, right?
Right.
This is our first podcast. So this is Booz and Broz. We talked a lot about ghosts and paranormal things. We would love to hear from you guys. We do have social media, which we will put up at the end of this video or on the link below, or you can look at it on our website. But we want to know your opinions about what exactly are ghosts. What do you believe? And for people who don't believe in ghosts, what do you think is next? You know, I know people who think there's nothing next, but I also know people who think there's nothing, but there's a possibility of being reincarnated. And, you know, there's so much thought into what happens when we die, and we're here on earth not knowing.
Well, I dare ask a skeptic, simply put, and simply this. You don't believe in ghosts, that's fine. Everybody can believe whatever they want, however they need to believe. But with that being said, why is it that at the end of the day, when you look at this whole stuff and the idea that ghosts aren't real, first off, what makes you right? Do you understand what happens after death? Have you been there? Have you come back? Do you remember? Did you write it down? Were you given a book? Do you have some kind of insight that we don't have for you to look me dead in the face and say, ghosts aren't real? No,
nope.
You don't. And just that same, I don't have the same info to come to you and say, guess what? Ghosts are real. You just don't know. You don't know. But in that, I challenge any skeptic out there to come to me and explain why you don't think a ghost is real. I want to understand, like, what you think why these ghost stories and these things have been happening for millennia. Like, why they've been happening for so long, and you don't think that they're real. It's one of those things that, like, that would be saying, like, okay, the summer's been happening since beginning of time, but it's not real. I mean, I get we're in the time of false information and fake news and all that crap, but outside of that, tell me why. Tell Matt and I why you don't think the ghosts are real. Simply put.
Skeptics, come at us, comments come at us, whatever it is. We're here not to necessarily prove everyone wrong, but to have our own experiences. You know, and I think that's what it's all about, Chris.
We're going to talk about the things that are passionate to us. We're going to talk about the things that are important to us. This is where you get to really know who we are. Not who we were then, but who we are now, what we've grown into, who we've become now, the things that we believe now.
You know, I think, yeah, and I think, you know, we have, obviously, guys, we're going to be doing this Booze and Bros podcast a lot. We definitely are going to do a podcast about what happened on the road to us when it comes to the paranormal. We also will be talking about cryptids. We'll be talking about maybe some COVID theories. We'll be talking about some serial killers. Ted Bundy, of course, will be one that I'm excited about. Ed Gein as well, you know, and more. We will also be talking about some cults. We'll talk about vampires. We'll talk about werewolves, talk about witchcraft. We have a lot of things in the supernatural realm that we want to discuss and, you know, inform you guys of what exactly it is. So that's why we made Booze and Bros. And we also have a lot more drinking to do.
Oh, yes. And that's the thing, is you guys get to be able to listen to us, enjoy our weirdness while drinking and talking about things that we find entertaining. Some of you might enjoy it, some of you might not. But at the end of the day, at least we can say we had fun.
That's true. Having said that, guys, we are about out of time. Chris, dude, this has been such a blast doing our very first podcast together. I'm so excited for what we're going to talk about in the future. And we also have so much more to work on in this field together.
I agree. I'm excited. On podcast 100, we're going to listen back to this and realize, wow, that's where we started. So to that, I will say cheers. Good night to everybody for listening. And thank you for choosing Booze and Bros.